Looks like it's going to be one of those nights. A little bit of a delay here.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
I'm like, hello.
So, welcome to Sports Bullet NHL Ranking Show. I'm your host, Eric. Main man right there, Ron. How are you?
How are you today?
Good. So every Monday, we release the NHL rankings. Obviously, the season's coming to an end, so we're getting closer and closer to the final week of the season. Not many games left, but we wanted to make sure we get them right up into the very end. And some changes this week. The five stayed the same, just some movement. But again, I will allow you to explain exactly how you get to your lists prior to us actually starting this off.
Oh, same five teams. There were a couple of teams that were, contending to get into that top five, and I'll start by saying Carolina was one of those teams. Who did go 4-0 this week in crunch time, but I chose not to put them in the top five because the quality of teams were really bad. And I
So for those
wasn't
that
going to hurt teams for that.
Yeah. So for those that are wondering how you come up with the list, normally it's based off of how the teams performed in the last week and kind of the opponents that they face as well, which
Right.
is important. So even though a team may have lost this week, if it was a top quality opponent and they played well, they may still be on the list.
Yeah, and also could be in a case like Colorado, like, look, they have nothing to play for. And, probably not given many minutes to all the players. I didn't watch the games for Colorado this week. It didn't really feel necessary to do that because I knew they were going to be, A, resting players, and B, not playing players, their full, allotted minutes as normal. So, so their week, they've been on vacation this week. So I took that, you know, for what it was
Into account.
worth, and they didn't suffer too much because of that.
I got it. So let's get into the list. So you started right up number 5. This team was actually 3 last week, dropped
Yes.
2 spots. So that would be the
Oh, Toronto Maple Leafs, still in there. They've performed well. They took that number 2 spot, so they will have home ice advantage, and most likely will do it up against a Tampa Bay, um, which is not really a surprise. Um, I think I think the way the teams have been listed, in the standings for the past couple of weeks was probably the way it was going to finish. So it's not really a surprise. But Toronto did finish off the season really well. They did take a loss this week, but actually they went 2-1-1, if I'm not mistaken. So they had an overtime loss and a regulation loss. But again, they had that second spot sewn up. They were going to have home ice, in the first round. And again, minutes were depleted, you know, evenly as opposed to, having your main guys out there, the entire way. So,
Yeah. So Toronto 52-21-7 on the season, 7-2-1 in their last 10. Facing at home Detroit and Boston, their
yes.
final two. They're 29-8-2 at home. So you look at their home record, obviously their offensive efficiency, 307 goals for, plus 57 as a team. So again, they seem to win pretty convincingly when they do win. Any concerns with those two teams? I mean, obviously Detroit. We know Boston's going to have a tough stretch here, so not quite sure what Boston's going to be able to do. They're playing some top quality opponents, so you're talking about some grinding going on from a Bruins standpoint. Toronto, do they just kind of coast in here since they've already locked up
Yeah,
number 2?
I look, they're not going anywhere. They're going to finish right where they are. Tampa Bay is 5 points behind them. There's only 2 games left for Tampa Bay, so they can't catch them. So they're finishing second, and they're going to have home ice advantage. So it's just a matter of whether Boston catches Tampa Bay. That is really the only thing to be decided here. Um, and, playing 5 games in 7 nights for the Bruins to end the season is just ridiculous. And personally, I don't think it's right. I think they should have, extended the season one day and let them play 5 games in 8 nights instead. I mean, give the team a break. But, I'm not the NHL. I don't, make the schedule. And, it is what it is. And the Bruins won't use that as an excuse. But I think they're just going to play to get their game right going into the playoffs because they've been without, the bulk of their top players
Yeah,
for
and I
quite
think
some time.
look, they're getting some guys back now, which is important, and those guys need some minutes. So this might actually benefit the Boston Bruins.
Yes.
If you're looking at it from a standpoint of them not having guys play recently, and now they at least get their legs under them before they get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and let's be honest. The Bruins play better when they're considered the underdog. So, I would not want to face the Bruins in the first round, and it looks like Carolina is going to have that task. And frankly, Carolina should be careful. They should be careful.
Yeah,
Look,
kind of
I
the
know the
mentality of
record. I know
Boston.
the records. During the season, but it's a whole new season come playoff time, and this is not the same team.
No. So at number 4,
At
St. Louis
number 4,
Blues.
St. Louis. They're continuing to play very well. Look, they got a good power play, so they're going to be going into the playoffs on a good note with, with that potent power play could be deadly in that first round. And again, they're going to have to play Minnesota. And that is going to be a fantastic series because you got two really good teams, and they're both playing very well. So that's going to be an exciting series to watch. Um, I look at the goaltending, and to me, that favors Minnesota. Minnesota will also be home. So I think Minnesota can ultimately take the series, but do not ever count St. Louis out.
So both of those teams are very hot. St. Louis 49, 20, and 11 on the season. 9-0-1 in their last 10.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
face
that's
at Colorado
speaks
this week
for it all.
and then Vegas. So 2 good teams. Obviously, the Colorado matchup's a very big one.
Yeah, and I think both teams are gonna rest players in that game. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of stake in that game for either team. I think they're gonna rest, and that's what their goal is.
So since you brought up number 3, Minnesota.
Right.
So these 2 teams, like you said, will be squaring away. Minnesota 51, 21, and 7 on the season. They were 8-0-2. So neither team lost in the last 10. They face Arizona and then Calgary, both at home. They're 29, 7-2 at home. So, and they actually have Colorado to end the season.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, again, that Colorado matchup. Will it kind of, again, be
It's not even gonna matter.
that they're not playing? Yeah, most of their starters.
It's not gonna matter. Look, I think these teams, their schedule for the playoffs is already set. So they're gonna just limit minutes. Just make sure you take care of the fundamentals, and you go from there. And it's not even really about the win; it's going into the playoffs. How you're tending to your end. How you're coming out of your own zone. It's all those little things that they're going to be looking at to fine tune to make sure that they know, what their game is going to be going into the playoffs. And yeah, if you get a win, yeah, it's great, but that is secondary at this point. It's just making sure, you know, you dot the I's and cross the T's, and you're just making sure that you're limiting minutes to those players that normally play a lot. So that's what most of these teams are going to be doing this week.
Yeah, again, try to control the injury factor. You don't want to have guys getting hurt late in the season when you've already locked up a playoff position. It makes sense, but you also don't want to kind of hurt yourself in the sense of you're not in hockey mode when
Right.
you get into the playoffs.
And that's the fine line, the balancing act. And, those coaches that know what they're doing are going to be key in all of this. So, I mean, like that list that we had of the coaches,
Yeah.
those 10. And that's another reason why I wanted to do 10, because a lot of those coaches are going to be in the playoffs and they are going to be able to get the teams properly ready. And that goes a long way.
So let's talk about the number 2 team, and that's the Colorado Avalanche, who've fallen out of the number 1 spot.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, again, like to your point, they've kind of showed it up a while ago. They're 55, 18, and 6, 6 and 4 in their last 10. They play St. Louis, Nashville at home, and then at Minnesota to end the season. Plus 80 on the season when you look at it from a team standpoint, just their share scoring, 31, 5, and 3 at home. They just do not lose at home. What could be the only fear other than, like we've talked about in the past, their kind of playoff hiccups when they get in the playoffs? Their regular season versus their playoff season sometimes seems to be
and this is what I don't like about Colorado right now. They went 0-4 this week. There is taking time off, and then there is just not even playing. I mean, that could be a scary thing, because they're going to have to turn it back on in the playoffs. So they need to have at least, to get a win under their belt in their final 2 games, and I think they might have, let up a little too early, but the thing is with them, I mean, they're going to play Nashville probably. That's what I'm looking at in the standings, seeing the games remaining and what they could possibly get. I think they're going to end up playing Nashville. And that might not be an easy series. I mean, you're talking about, Yossi, who could win the Norris Trophy. So I mean, that is not how you want to go into playing a team like that can come back and just hurt you, and then you might not recover.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you were the coach, you're playing Nashville this week at home, do you kind of play your starters, get them ready and prepared for that game?
If I'm Colorado, I play everybody. I play everybody in that game. You get them ready, because that's probably going to be your first round.
And I'm more of a football guy. You're the hockey guy. You're my hockey guru. But I also remember one time where the Indianapolis Colts had sewn up, I think by week 13, they had locked up the number 1 seed, and they sat their starters for almost 3 games.
Yeah.
Got bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
Because that guys really hadn't played in about a month.
Yeah,
so,
and that's why I'm a little concerned to how they're limping into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's kind of, eye-opening to see them at 0-4 this week, knowing that you're going into the playoffs. Regardless, you don't want to be going in on a sour note. You'd rather be going in more of a high note. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and let me tell you, that first round is definitely not going to be a sweep. Yeah. Unless it's the other way.
And again, hockey's so much different than any other playoffs, where any team is really alive. I don't see a lot of teams, especially in the East. And you brought up an interesting stat early in the week or last week when you said there's going to be probably all 8 teams at 100 points.
Yeah, and that did in fact happen. As Washington is at 100 points,
which is insane.
It's never happened before.
Yeah, that's insane. All 8 teams in the East are going to be over 100 points.
Yeah, and you look at the West. So Edmonton is sitting at 98 points, second in their division. They wouldn't even be in the playoffs in the East, and they're sitting in second in their division. So that tells you right there how important it is for every point you get in the East.
Yeah,
It,
right
it
now,
is
crucial.
stacked, and
It is
going into the
crucial.
playoffs, every win matters. You can't, like, if you go down 1-0, that is big. That's a big deal in the NHL, especially in that East, because you just can't turn it on and say, okay, we'll come back tomorrow and
Yeah,
we'll play, and everything will be fine. Well, you can still come back tomorrow and play, and everything might not be fine.
yeah. These are all top quality teams in the East, which brings us to our number one team, who is in the East, and that's the Florida Panthers, who have been playing some phenomenal hockey. 57, 16, and 6 now, best record in the NHL, 9,
Yeah.
1, and 0 in their last 10. All three of their last games are on the road at Boston, at Ottawa, at Montreal, but 23, 9, and 6 on the road. So if you look at a standpoint of them playing on the road, really doesn't affect them much. A plus 100, best in the NHL as a team, and 332 goals. So they put up some points.
This team right now is sitting at that number one spot and deserves that number one spot. This team has been probably, the top two consistent teams along with Colorado the entire way. And I think this Florida team is built for the playoffs. They have everything that you could want in a team rolling into the Stanley Cup playoffs. And all those intangibles, everything. It all matters, and uh, it's going to be tough for anybody to beat this team in 4 games. Like, look, they, I can't see them losing 4 games in a series. Like, if I was to pick right now, I'd pick Florida for
As your favorite.
the Stanley Cup, because I can't see them losing 4 games to a team. I mean, they're just that good.
And it's funny how you were talking about what Colorado's doing, taking some rest and time off here. It looks like, whereas Florida's still continuing to put out, their top, and they're
Yeah,
winning. They're
yeah,
continuing to win. So when we talked about at the trade deadline and some of the moves they made to make sure they shored up their team, they're all in. To me,
yeah.
The Florida Panthers are all
Giroux,
in.
Sherrod. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. You know. They probably got the second best defenseman out of the players that did move. I think Bruins got the best. But the fact that they also picked up Giroux kind of
Yeah,
kind of put,
helped a little bit.
yeah, so to me, they were the winners of the trade deadline. And out west, I think it had to be Minnesota
Yeah,
because of what they picked up, some toughness, and they picked up the flower.
yeah, yeah. A veteran that knows how to win in the playoffs.
Right?
And think about what Florida's doing from a goaltending standpoint. Again, they've given up 232 goals, plus 100. I mean, your goaltender, and we've talked about the importance, especially in the NHL playoffs. If that goaltender is hot at the right time, it doesn't matter how bad your team could be going in. That's going to be crucial, and they've been pretty consistent all year.
That's like a giant Band-Aid that covers your whole team. Is a hot goaltender. We saw it last year with Montreal. Look,
Yeah,
Gary
exactly.
Price is a
Carey Price, yeah.
phenomenal goaltender. Okay, and we're not looking that far back where Bobrovsky was considered the best until Vasilevsky took over. So like Florida can easily just have just as hot as a goaltender can be, with Bobrovsky, and when you have that much offensive power and defensive capabilities, you don't even need a hot goaltender. It seems, they're that sound, and if he gets hot, it's over. If he gets hot, it's over, because there's no way anybody can contend with that team if Bobrovsky gets
Yeah.
hot
Oh,
at the same
yeah.
time. So, it wouldn't even be fair.
Yeah. That's something probably most fans don't want to see happen because
No,
that's
they don't want to see
it's
that.
yeah,
That's for
basically.
sure. And Washington gets to see it first.
So let's look at the list real quick, my friend, and then we'll go on to some of the other things that we had discussed for last week's challenge. I know you said it was a little bit more difficult for you on that one, so let's see what we came up with. If it works, we have
There we
got
go.
some mass ladies today. All right, and yeah, it's not on
Yep.
my end. There we go. All
It's not
right.
on your end.
So at number 5, the Toronto Maple Leafs. At number 4, the St. Louis Blues. At number 3, the Minnesota Wild. At number 2, the Colorado Avalanche. And moving into number 1, the Florida Panthers. Not many games left, Ron. But is there a team that maybe could sneak in the last week of the season, or one of these teams drop out?
Well, you can see Calgary, Carolina, Boston, the Rangers. Like they'll all have a shot at it. That's for definite. You know, um, even Tampa Bay. But I would probably say Boston might actually have the best chance because they're going to be playing some quality teams all week. So so
So if they get those
so
games,
if they win all those games, then there's a good chance that they get in there. But most of the other teams are, not playing a, powerhouse schedule. So like the Rangers, I think they have Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. So they have they have a tough game coming up, and that's an important one because they want to get that first seed. They still have a shot at that. Probably not going to get it, but you know, but they have a shot at it. So I would say Boston or the Rangers probably have the best chance if they take care of business.
all right, excellent. So each week you kind of get a challenge. We see how you did. So last week was those top 10 coaches in the NHL. So we get it. We try to get a little more personal sometimes. You, if they don't know, are a diehard Bruins fan.
Yep.
Uh, Homer at times. I'm just going to say it.
No.
I'm just going to say it. No, never.
How am I a
So
homer?
you're going to give us the
You know how
top
many
five
times I blasted the Bruins on this show?
top five Bruins coaches of all time.
Yeah, this was actually really difficult because as I look back in history, God, they had some really bad coaches. um, there is going to be one note that I will say. He's not in my top 5 coaches, and I don't even think um, he would even want to be mentioned as a top 5 coach in Bruins history, and that would be Terry O'Reilly, because when he came in, the team was reeling, and he got, look, he just did what he did on ice, and that is display that heart and soul of the Boston Bruins organization, and they came out of their funk, and then carried into the playoffs a, what was it? I don't know, 13, 14, um, 14 streak losing to the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs, and he got them by the Montreal Canadiens in that series. And that was like winning the Stanley Cup for the Bruins at that point because, they were floundering and they were just not getting a good coaching. And he'd be the first one to tell you that he wasn't, he didn't know what he was doing probably half the times. And he'll tell you that. But it was just his persona being there that the team took that persona and just went all out. So,
Gotcha.
so not in the top 5 coaches, but it was such an inspirational season that, that it was nice to see as a Bruins fan. So with that, number 5, and there might be some people that hate me in Boston for this. I have Harry Sinden as number 5. Now, Harry Sinden was 153, 116 losses, 55 ties, but he got them to win the Stanley Cup in 1970. And you know how I am with championships.
Yeah.
That was big. So it helps when you have Bobby Orr doing the in-flight, you know,
Oh yeah.
goal that
Yeah.
made him famous. Oh well, not that made him famous, but
It
just his
helped
great play. Yeah,
solidify. Yeah.
yeah.
It kind of solidified him. It's
Yeah,
like Michael Jordan with the slam dunk. Once
yeah,
you start
yeah.
flying, it's no matter what.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had Harry Sinden number 5, and I know a lot of Bruins fans, old time Bruins fans, really don't like Harry Sinden because of his cheapness, I guess, as a GM.
Yes. Yep.
So it might not have been him. It could have been the ownership, but
But This
you
is
know,
this is 5 coaches, so we're not talking about what he did
right,
afterwards with the organization.
right. All right. So number 4, which may surprise some people too, um, Claude Julien.
I thought he'd be
Obviously,
higher.
no, because
No.
you, look, this team could have been a dynasty. It could have been a dynasty, and it should have been a dynasty. So I'll leave it at that. I think they left a couple on the table.
Okay.
But he had 419 wins, a 614 percentage. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like he is, the most wins as a coach. Like he did do that. And he won 1 cup. Should have been more. And, that's on him.
Yep.
It was his fault. So, but I left it at that. Number 3, I have Don Cherry. Now, Don Cherry did not win a Stanley Cup, but again, that goes back to that GM that really didn't do enough. Like when you have this team, and he had 231 wins, 105 losses, so his winning percentage was 658.
Very good. Yeah.
That is really, really good. And they just didn't get him the players they needed to get him over the hump. He did win a Jack Adams Award for Best Coach, as did Claude Julien. But I did put him ahead of Claude Julien because I think he was a better coach and did better with more. I mean, did better with less
Right. Yep.
than what Claude Julien did.
Makes sense.
So, number 2, I have Tom Johnson, who took over for Harry Sinden in 1970. Didn't coach, tremendously long, but his record was 142, 43 losses.
Wow. Okay. 100 wins over.
Yeah, and 23 ties, and he won the Stanley Cup in 1972. So, I love those wins. I wish he would have coached longer because he could have probably been higher if he did.
Yeah.
And I think they might have won some more Stanley Cups if he did coach longer. So, but then number 1, I have Art Ross. Art Ross had 387 wins for the Boston Bruins, 290 losses, and 95 ties. Now, here's the thing that I didn't like. He was 32 and 33 in the playoffs. So you might think, okay, well, maybe they should have, had a better record in the playoffs. But, I'm looking back at the years, it was in the 20s and 30s. So I can't really say that I saw the games.
Oh, you missed those? Oh, come on.
Yeah, I did miss those just by a little bit. But he did win 2 Stanley Cups. And winning 2 Stanley Cups for this organization is better than anybody. So I went with him at number 1, second all time in wins for the Bruins. Again, this is a team that left a lot on the table throughout the years, and it was mainly because of those those guys in red and
And
blue and white.
yeah. Oh,
You know,
okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I think you mentioned it a few times. Obviously, the GMs have a big factor on how good a
absolutely.
coach is. So great list. I love it. I love the fact that you can always pick out a guy from like the 20s, 30s that nobody might have even recognized, but you're doing your research. It goes to show. So I appreciate that. So
Yeah,
you ready
Bruce
for this
Cassidy
week?
did not make the list.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed. Are you ready for
He's
next week's
close.
challenge? Next week's challenge.
He's
So
got to
the
win a cup.
season ends next Sunday. So with the season ending, Ron, you already gonna obviously have your work cut out because your all Ron team. So you had your midseason all Ron. Now you're gonna have your all Ron team for the last season.
Yep.
You're gonna give us the Hart winner, the Venzia winner, the Norris winner. You're gonna tell us who's gonna win those awards.
I actually have 2 of them right now.
I would assume you would. I know you. So that is going to be your challenge for next week. You are going to give us.
So basically, I don't have to do anything for next week because it's already done.
So perfect. But you also got to start your all Ron team. We've got to get that released next week with the season ending.
Yeah.
And we're going to have our NHL playoff preview show next week as well. So after the Monday's ranking show, we will do an NHL preview show. We're excited about that. If you have time this Thursday, join us at 8 p.m. as we're going to do an NFL draft watch party. We're going to watch the draft live, discuss the picks, discuss our thoughts on the picks. Obviously, would love some fan participation to join in so we can discuss these teams and go through that process. And if you like Sports Unfolded and want to continue to support us, join us every Friday night. We're live at 6 p.m. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We're live on all those platforms. So much fun. We cover all the major topics of the past week. And then obviously give us our own little flavors on some other topics. We do our pick and roll, our face off, our triple play segments, which are all just some fun things to do. Follow us on social media at Sports Unfolded on Facebook and Twitter, at Broadcasting RI on Twitter, Sports_Unfolded on Instagram. Check out our podcast on Amazon, Anchor, Google, Spotify, and TuneIn. Ron, I know there's a couple more I may have missed. But we are continuing to grow, continuing to do so much for Sports Unfolded. Love doing these hockey shows. Gonna miss them because we only got a short week, and then
They don't have to go away completely.
No, we got some playoff hockey. We'll be talking playoff hockey every week, so I'm excited about that.
So Eric, what I will do for you is I will give you 5 guys that I feel are clutch in the NHL, the top 5 guys.
Okay, awesome. Top 5 clutch guys.
And, whether we do it for the playoff preview or next week's hockey show, will be up for debate, depending on time, of course,
Yeah, awesome. Can't wait. So very excited about that. Let's go enjoy some playoff basketball as we get the Boston Celtics about to take on the Brooklyn Nets to
let's finish it off.
try to sweep that. Yeah, so I will see you on Friday night, my friend.
All righty.
All right, you take care.
Have a good night, everybody.